All right, Corey is the last one up, and then we'll get to some comments. It says, can you tell me about entities? I have an idea, but I'd like some clarity. And how do we properly use them to our advantage? Well, an entity is a person, place, or thing. And so an entity is something that is the way that I use it for SEO is an entity is a person, place, or thing, or how Google understands it. And Wikipedia is a great way to kind of do some entity or topic research, right? Is to go in and look at Wikipedia and look at, because Wikipedia is going to have entities or entries that can be entities that are very specific. And Google has trained a lot of its large language model on Wikipedia and many other databases, but Wikipedia being one of them. And so that's where I do a lot of my topic and category research now, is through just going to Google search. I've done some training on this. You can find it on our YouTube channel, or if you join the mastermind, you can get to it very quickly. But I've done a ton of training on topic and category research using Google search and Wikipedia, where you append Wikipedia to the search queries to identify the Wikipedia entities that are related to your seed search queries based upon how Google sorts them, which is by relevance. So it's a great way to understand how Google rates, or how Google kind of sorts and rates Wikipedia entities based upon your search query. So again, I'm not going to go into this right now because I've done this before, and this is more kind of mastermind training. I can talk about it here, but I'm not going to demonstrate it here. Okay. But again, you can go to Google search and type in product and or service keywords that are associated with your industry, and append Wikipedia to the search query, right? So in the search bar, you type in the product name or service or whatever keyword it is that you want to do the research on, and you just space Wikipedia, type it out, hit enter. Then in the search results, it's going to show you the named entities in Wikipedia that are relevant to that search query. And so you can start to identify and extract topics or entities that are relevant to your search query, and start sorting them and figuring out how Google, don't just extract the page URLs too, guys. Take some time to read through at least the first couple of paragraphs of the Wikipedia pages for those entities. Get an understanding of the language associated with those entities, because that's how Google understands it. And so if you can understand that, it gives you a better, more insight on how to optimize for what in today's current environment, right? Which is more of the semantic web than it is a search engine. Does that make sense? So that's what I would recommend. How to use them properly to your advantage? Well, if you can understand the entities that are relevant to your industry, the products or services that you provide, so essentially your industry, then you can produce content and well, let's back up. That's further down as kind of more further down the process. Further down in the process would be the actual content. But if you understand how Google understands the entities associated with an industry, you can structure your site accordingly, right? You can optimize your site with the architecture of your site, how you build the site, and how you stack content, right? So categories, topics, and subtopics or subcategories. And then once you understand how to best structure the site, the build of the site, then understanding entities and how they relate to each other is how you can optimize the structure of the page, right? Because there's site structure, then there's page structure, and then there's content. Content is how you flesh out that structure. That makes sense. So there's kind of 3 levels. And I always recommend, we don't rank websites, we rank web pages, right? But a website's structure and authority and strength has a significant influence on a page's ability to rank. And now, because of the helpful content update and that kind of like quality score multiplier thing, even a perfectly optimized, so perfectly structured and optimized page can actually be pulled down by the rest of the site if the rest of the site has a lower quality score than a page is 100% perfectly optimized, can actually be pulled down now and its overall quality score because of the site score itself, which is why I recommend. 6 months ago, I was talking about page structure being more important than content. And that was true then, but I'm not seeing that really this case right now, because stuff's constantly shifting. Right now in Google, there's been so many updates recently, it's ridiculous. But what I'm seeing now is site structure is incredibly important when you're optimizing for topic or category optimization, as I'm recommending. Site structure is incredibly important. Page structure is important. And then the content is how you kind of flesh that out. So take the time to learn this. And by the way, all the research I'm talking about for topic and category research, or entity research, if you want to call it that, it's always a starting point, and it's going to be a trial and error process to determine how best to structure it. You can find clues from how Wikipedia structures pages and the hierarchy of how they do it in internal links too. That's also important. But it's going to require testing. I'm in the tree service industry, and for the last year, almost a year and a half now, all I've been doing is testing various configurations and structures, both just within a page and also across a site, to try to determine what the perfect recipe is. And there are some kind of configurations that perform well and some that perform poorly. And there's, I'm still testing to this. In fact, I was literally earlier today, I was working on another site that I'm building under the Felling Pro brand to test a few additional configurations. So the reason I bring that up is to answer your question, Corey, is because you can do the topic and category entity research and start to get an idea, but it's still going to require some testing in your own specific industry to determine what performs best. And unfortunately, I wish, guys, I had a better answer to say, like, hey, if you just do this, you're going to, this is the best structure and everything else. But I can't tell you that, because I'm in the tree service industry, as I just mentioned, and for almost a year and a half, I'm still trying to figure out. I figured out certain things that work really, really well, but I'm still testing to find out, are there others, right? It's just like in direct response marketing. You always want to split test stuff, right? Once you have something that is performing well, that becomes your control. And then your sole purpose in life is to beat that control. So you're constantly testing against whatever is your best performer. And that's what I'm still doing now with local site structures, is I'm still testing, but I can only do it in one industry because it requires that much testing. I couldn't imagine doing this across more than one industry. I just don't have that amount of time, and I don't know who the hell does. So that's why I always recommend going into one industry, guys, because you can really dial it in. Once you figure it out, now you've got an edge over pretty much anybody else in that industry, right? Because you've taken the time and put in the work to figure out what is the best performing structure that really speaks to Google. And most other SEOs aren't willing to do that, guys. If you want better results, be willing to do what others aren't. You know what I mean? So hopefully that's clear. And I've done a ton of training about this kind of stuff in the mastermind. And I'm always showing, I've got a lot of examples next week when we do our next mastermind webinar. I've got a ton of examples to show of what I'm doing recently with some more testing on that. So